and welcome to the Exeter Oddity Showcase. I'm your host, Hillary, and we'll be taking a trip through all things indie in Exeter. And we're here starting our first episode with experimental musician Almanac Mountain. Take it away!
Not wanting to escape. Surry hospitality and California dreaming. California dreaming. California dreaming. California dreaming.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host Hillary here, live at Exeter High School studio, and we have Chris Cote, or Almanac Mountain, to come and talk with us for our musical spotlight today. Come on in, Chris.
Hey, Hillary.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
Sit down.
Thank you. I will.
All right. So we're here to obviously talk a little bit about your music. So, sort of what are your roots? Where did you get started? What's your inspiration with music?
I've been making music since I was a kid. It was just, something that I latched onto really, really early and started writing my own stuff and, composing. That was sort of my passion, was composing, more so than playing, but of course, a lot of times to get your stuff out there, you do have to play your stuff yourself. So, I just kept going. I had bands. I composed for the theater for a number of years, composed for, various other things, TV, radio, things like that. But the Almanac Mountain thing is a project that came out of, started in 2010, and it's came out of sort of my sort of meditative feelings about nature and the natural world. And the first album that I did, called When in Nature, was really all about that connection between nature and humanity, and that sort of progressed. The Almanac Mountain sound sort of progressed throughout the next few albums and included a little bit, some more political stuff, more sort of human sort of themes in there, but there's always a tie back to nature and the importance of it. And so it's my, it's my it's my way of sort of, of, I guess, getting in touch with nature in an artistic way, using my creative impulses to sort of speak about nature and connect with it more. So.
All right. So obviously you're very process-based. Could you give us a little insight on your process and maybe talk about if it's different for Almanac Mountain versus a film or a play?
Yeah, I mean, it's the major difference between, composing on paper, sitting at a piano and composing notes and making a score versus what I do with Almanac Mountain is that I very much feel like I'm doing the same kind of thing when I sit at a computer and I play parts into it. I pretty much record everything myself and play all the parts. I do occasionally have guest musicians, but for the most part it's me. And to me, that's like the same thing as composing. When I open up my recording software on the computer and I play some notes into it on a certain instrument, that's like composing that part. It feels the same because when I started actually writing music, it was at the kind of the beginning of the era of being able to use notation software like Finale and stuff like that. So I've always been a computer-based composer. So it was just sort of a minor shift to go from plugging notes in to plugging performances into a computer. So it's very similar, but I do work by myself, and and I'll go back and edit, and usually I start. A lot of people will make demos of a song, and then they'll record. Then once they've got the song together, they'll record the song over. They'll start it. They'll get the musicians. I tend to work from scratch. Like if I start an idea, I don't necessarily record demos. I just keep building on that project and tweak things, take things out, add stuff, and just until it's right, like you would a composition, So it feels very much like composing to me. But so I guess it's a little unorthodox, than as compared to what most bands do. But it's what works for me.
Yeah. You mentioned working digitally. So like, what kind of sounds do you like to incorporate? What do you like kind of feel?
It really varies depending on the sort of the mood that I want to create. I really like synthesis and creating sounds on various synthesizers, and I think that element can really help shape the mood, I guess, of a piece. So if I want to evoke, I guess, darkness or like cold or things like these sort of like tangible ideas, I'll often go to like some of those digital tools like synthesizers and even some production stuff to achieve that feeling. And I love that. I love experimenting with various sounds and using things like they're not supposed to be meant to be used. I've often found like some of my favorite sounds by using some sort of sound tool like incorrectly, quote unquote. Because most people are just want to play it safe with things like, oh, this is how we know this compressor is supposed to work, or this this module or whatever, and so we're going to do it like we should. But I like to find the sounds that you can get if you crank it, or if you do certain things like you wouldn't normally do with it, because those are generally kind of new sounds, and I like hearing new sounds, and that's sort of what it's about a lot of the time for me.
I like that. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm like all a background person who sings and tries to come up with music sometimes, so I can really relate to that, because I'll just like slap things together. But like for me, it's probably a little more haphazard. Like, oh, I'll take this. I'm trying to learn how instruments and on stuff on it, like Bandcamp and digital things work. So I'll try to do that, or like I'll put my voice in reversed or changed.
That's great.
Or something
Yeah,
like that.
haphazard is awesome. Absolutely, and I think a lot of people get afraid of it. It's like people aren't going to like this. This is wrong. Like, no, that's you gotta not be afraid to like make stupid sounding stuff. Because eventually you're going to stumble upon something that's really interesting and really, and possibly very, very new. And that's how art changes, and that's how art grows, is by, doing things that people haven't done before. And who knows if I've done that here or there. I'd like to think I have. That's certainly what I aim to do.
Across the lakes and plains it drifted, into a tiny breeze it shifted. A breeze so often dissipates. Oh, but this breeze accumulates, building eastward like a shroud. Your sigh became the wind and clouds. And soon the soft dew of your sigh and the anguish of goodbye took the only likely form, a frigid winter storm. The wind it howls, the white snow dancing so very near, still advancing. And here I sleep, the walls enclose me, and still I wonder why you chose me. Your stormy sighs stayed with me all night until the sky gave up its first light. So long ago we woke together, different season, different weather. But every storm cloud has to clear. Oh, my sweet love, oh, my dear. I'll try to do my best, but storms don't travel west. Where have you been, my only friend? It's been so long. I've tried to call, wrote letters and all. Heard you might be in town for a show. You left a trail of pretty lies. I breathed a million empty sighs, but I'm back in the place I thought I couldn't face, singing an old melody. Where have you been, my rose of spring? It's been so cold for so long. Buried below imprisoning snow, rising to the Cardinal sun. Without a word I kissed your lips, delicate petals, ripe rose hips. But as poetry warns, beware of the thorns, while I disregard and I bleed. You said time was a friend. It's an awful disease, and I'm begging you, please, hurry up and slow down. Down, 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 while I run from this town, town, town. Hurry up and slow down, down, down. Where have you been, my only friend? It's been so long, can't you see? Out in your car, going nightclub to bar, singing that old melody. The one about the one who tried to love me, but got pushed aside. Now I'm going back to the place I thought I couldn't face, to finish that old melody. Boris and Natasha, Boston will not ever be a home, but St. Petersburg has left you on your own. Vagabonds and drifters, can you fill the streets with memories gone by? Natasha, you were once the greatest spy, and Boris was your guy. Boris told Natasha, Fiedler's statue looks like Comrade Marx. Without the beard, without the fervent sparks. Natasha, you're an island. Ships approach and ships are run aground. Many sink, but Boris never drowned. His boat just sails around, flying colors for the cause. Boris, how long till you know? Communism died a year ago. Take the table furthest from the bar, as politics and vodka leave its scar. We are only people, Boris. People are good only for so much. We can dream, but dreaming is a crutch. Trust only that which you can touch, and we'll survive the Boston streets. Boris, will you ever know? Communism died a year ago. Communism died a year ago. Someone said it takes 2 bullets to put you down. She was right, or was it he? I didn't see. Head was down, staring at the ground, staring at my feet. Dipped my quill in the black ink of loss once before. Oh, Manzanita, don't say goodbye again. I've hardly got the pen to write about the sorrow and the shame again and again. Manzanita, my friend. My dark Corsican love, my creme brulee, my cafe au lait. Gonna go climb a hill and walk you off best that I can. Oh, but I'm tired, uninspired, staring at my feet. Oh, my little apple, you left me at the chapel. Someone throw me up a grapple, I wanna come down. Oh, Manzanita, don't say goodbye again. I've hardly got the pen to write about the sorrow and the shame again and again. Manzanita, my friend. After all that we've been through, a part of you apart from you.
and bring it a little local. How do you like this area and like being indie in the Exeter and surrounding area scene?
I love it. I mean, I've lived in Exeter for about 8 years. And it's kind of like, for me, it's like a very Goldilocks kind of town, because it's like, you know, it's got just the right amount of things that just make me like content. You know, it's got the town's not too big, but it's not too small. It's got I like the sort of economic diversity. You know, I like to be able to go over here and maybe see some beautiful historic houses, but then, you know, you go over here and there's like a real sense of like, you know, sort of small town locals kind of community, which is cool. I love the history of the town, you know, walking around, and it's very inspiring because a lot of my inspiration is drawn not only from nature but from history, and so it provides a lot to sort of put me in that space, that mindset of being creative. So I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad. Any Exeter-inspired songs secretly?
No, well, nothing. I mean, certainly nothing that would be, you know, critical or anything. I mean, I tend not to be very specific in songs. There are certain songs, you know, like obviously the Boris and Natasha song that I do. It's like takes place in Boston, and it's about these, you know, these people that have escaped. You know, it's also time based, you know, so it's like takes place in like '92 or something, and these people escaped from Russia, and they're, you know, these former communists, and one of them, Boris, really still believes in the cause, and Natasha's trying to convince him that, like, you know, it's over, like, you know, times have changed, we have to adapt, but he can't adapt, and, you know, so that's very specific, and it just happens to take place in Boston in the story. But generally I don't you know, make music that specifically is located anywhere.
I think that makes sense.
At least I don't think I do.
There's probably some inspiration hiding.
Yeah, there probably. I mean, like I said, just you know, I mean, inspiration is this sort of nebulous thing, and it's like, you know, it's not necessarily. You don't necessarily get inspired to do specific things all the time. Sometimes it's just like the environment that you're in can just sort of facilitate a general capacity to be creative, and what comes out of that, although it may not be about Exeter, it very well, you know, can come out of, you know, a walk that I took, you know, over to Swayze Parkway, or over to the, you know, like the Dalton Woods, or the, not the Dalton Woods, is it? No, the Oakland Woods there, the Swayze Henderson Woods, and, you know, all that stuff. There's so many beautiful places within reach, and, you know, and like I said, it facilitates a sort of, you know, creative frame of mind.
All right. It's good to hear. You doing anything around here recently, or are you?
The last thing I did is I premiered my new album, Cryptoseismology, at the end of the year, at the end of 2016, over in Newmarket, so just right up the road, not here in Exeter, but I haven't really found many, you know, venues in Exeter, and I'm hoping that sort of, you know, will there'll be more opportunities. But as I was talking to you guys before we started rolling, I don't play a ton of shows. I'm pretty focused on writing and recording. Yeah, that's sort of my thing.
All right. And these are really
these are
cool
my
albums.
These are my releases. Yes.
On the table, if we could, we'll probably get a shot of them later.
This is my first full length. It's called So Many Seas. That's my second one, which I did a crowdfunding thing because I wanted to release an album on vinyl, which I admit is there's somewhat bit of vanity involved in that.
Yeah, the back.
But
is
you know,
really nice.
it was cool, you know, and I was able to get it funded, so that's great. Yeah. And then I went more minimal for my last album on CD again, simple packaging.
So we're seeing it here in person. Is there somewhere, maybe in cyberspace, we could find your work?
Sure. You can buy everything off of my Bandcamp, which is almanacmountain.bandcamp.com. You can buy physical releases, and you can also buy downloads. And there's a few other free extras on the site too. So that's the place.
Yeah, sounds good. It's been really great to have you
Thank
here. You want
you.
to sign off with anything?
Yeah, well, no, I just want to say thank you guys for having me. I'm glad to be an Exeter resident and make music here, and I'm glad that there's an audience for this kind of stuff. And
I'm glad we had you
Yeah.
here. It was really fun to sort of discover that there's a lot of musicians out here.
Yeah,
if
for
you want
sure.
to talk to us, you can catch us online. You could send an email over to extvdg@exeternh.gov and ask for Hillary and be like, I want to be on that show.
yeah, it was fun.
I will put you on Exeter Oddity Showcase, and you can have a cool time too. I hope you're doing good.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, thank you. That's the end of the musical showcase for today.
Good evening. My name is Dan Chartrand. I'm the owner of Water Street Bookstore. The mission of Water Street Bookstore is to build community around the written word, and I'd say we're on mission tonight. So.
Yeah, I thought any town that can sustain an independent bookstore and love an independent bookstore, that was the kind of town I wanted to live in.
What were the messages she has been getting? So Dolores is really the voice of our post-colonial scars on the island. And here in this monologue, you'll see some of it coming out.
And I really just can't think of a better way for us all to come together and to really celebrate the freedom to read and to freely exchange ideas.
Hello, I'm your host Hillary. You're watching the Exeter Oddity Showcase, and up next will be a poetry reading from Outlook Springs.
You know, Noah and I were in Hamilton Smith 315 for a year together, and fiction editor Jeremy Parker was in Hamilton Smith 315 with us, and so I feel like there's something Outlook Springsy about Hamilton Smith 315, which currently exists in another dimension, having been demolished recently. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to read some things by other people first, because this is just a really great magazine, and I want you all to buy copies. So I'm going to read some of the other stuff here. Actually, just two poems that follow my own story, which is really, really short. And also by, I think, a woman. So, you know, we're all a bunch of guys getting up here sort of being guy-like. It would be good, I think, to bring in a different voice. So this is by Gail Griffin. It's called Forgotten Man Found Mummified in Home. And it begins with an excerpt from something from the Northern Michigan Express that says, "The partially mummified body of a man dead for more than a year had been found in a chair in front of his television, which was still on. The home's dry air had preserved his features," morgue assistant Jeff Backus said. "You should see his face. He still had hair on his head." Here's the poem. "Well, you took your own sweet time, didn't you? Should have known none of my worthless kids would check up on me, not to mention my moron of a nephew. Surprised you geniuses didn't hear from the lowlife next door, or that busybody wife of his. He's always grousing that the TV's too loud and she's got way more time on her hands than anybody needs. Took burst pipes to get you college boys out here, did it? Well, don't be calling that plumber of mine unless you want to pay an arm and two legs and then get told you need a whole new pump. You tell my smarty pants daughter what you said about the dry air. She's always on me to get a damned humidifier, like we need a lot more humidity around here. Hell, after Memorial Day, you might as well stop breathing. Global warming, my sweet ass. In July, it's warm enough to boil your eyeballs, and always has been. Long Island Sound rises up and heads this way. I'll be the first one in. You tell that to Mr. Al, used to be the next President Gore. And what are you staring at, Jughead? Course I got my hair. Some reason I shouldn't? Got my fingernails, too, and my toenails, and most of my teeth, and both of my testiculars. You care to check? I got my right mind, too, so don't be thinking about pulling any stunts. Do something useful for once and turn the squawk box off. There's not a damn thing on there worth any sane person's time, and believe you me, I know what I'm talking about. Idiots on parade, one after another, morning, noon, and night, 24/7. Come to think of it, maybe you'd enjoy that, numbnuts. You could join right in. Here, take the chair, it's all yours. If it's just all right with you boy wizards, I'm going to get me a slice of shut-eye. Don't let the door hit you in your bony ass on the way out.
Next up, we're doing some local color. We've got an Exeter History Minute and a segment from Exeter Fine Crafts.
Hi, I'm Barbara Rimkunis, out in the woods today for your Exeter History Minute. There are a lot of beautiful places in Exeter, including the trails through the PEA woods. Owned by Phillips Exeter Academy, the trails are open to the public for jogging, walking, snowshoeing, or cross-country skiing. It's peaceful out here, and it's easy to let your mind wander as you appreciate the sheer beauty of nature. But as you're going along, you'll encounter this lonely spot, which will bring you right back to reality. Set back a bit from the trail is the grave of Susanna Holman Brown and her infant daughter, both lost during childbirth in 1812. Susanna's story was sadly an all too common one for her time. She and her husband Joseph lived in a farmhouse on this land. The house is no longer here. After her death, Joseph chose to bury her and their lost daughter, who didn't even live long enough to receive a name, right here on his own property. There was a town burial ground, but he decided against using it. Perhaps he wanted her nearby. He marked the site with a field stone. Susanna was 27 years old at the time of her death. This would have been her third child. Decades later, a granddaughter trekked through the woods, found the spot her own mother had described, and had this marble marker erected. Pause for a moment when you get here. Consider all of the people who lived, loved, and lost in the centuries before we arrived. They're all part of the story. Susanna's chapter continued through her remaining daughters. We'll pick up that story and perhaps cheer things up a bit in our next Exeter History Minute. Check us out at www.exeterhistory.org.
When fall comes to New England and the sun slants in so fine, the air's so clear you can almost hear the grapes growing on the vine. The nights are sharp with starlight, the air is cool and clean, and in the blue sky overhead, the northern geese fly south instead, and leaves are Irish and red when fall comes to
Case reporter Hillary Donnell with Exeter TV here. We're about to go into Exeter Fine Crafts and make a pinch pot. Let's go! Next up is our animation block. We've got an old Fleischer film called Swing You Sinners, followed by The Blue Clay Man by our own Bob Glowacki. See ya.
Swing you sinners. You needed it.
Chickens you used to steal, I don't steal no more. Rabbits you used to shoot, I don't shoot no more. Dogs you used to chase, I don't chase no more. Get ready, brother. Your time has come. Stand up, you sinner, we got you at last. You can't get away, there's no time to play, your finish is going to be fast. Brothers and sisters, come on, get hot. We'll amputate your bodoyo and tie your bones in a knot. Did it down, did it down. Did it down. Bip it up, did it down. You're at the end of your rope, so just give up all hope. When you will stretch you like a giraffe, maybe what you would have. Just give us a laugh. When you
In the dark, I see you. In the dark, I think you see me. I think you see me. I think you see me too. But I won't say a word. You won't say a word. In truth, I never had a plan for you.
In today's society, when we have experiences, we immediately become labeled. From a very early time, we have been programmed to believe you are crazy, something is wrong with you if you have these experiences.
I wanted to learn the truth about the Betty and Barney Hill incident. Apparently the multiverse is haunted. Being haunted is the normal state of reality.
Grounded, well-thought people have had experiences, and I'm not afraid to talk about it.
There has been a lot of misinformation in the media.
The phrase flying saucer, I think, was chosen because it was kind of quirky and mocking from the start.
Everything you know is wrong. History, theology, anything about the paranormal, it's all probably wrong, and we don't really know anything.
There will be a day when the truth is out and is fully recognized, just because I think it's impossible for the truth to be buried forever.
Today, I want to show you the archival records, and I'm going to read from them so that you will know the truth.
Most of them had seen something celestial that they couldn't explain.
You feel like you have something you need to tell mankind, you can't recall what it is, and what occurs when you try to draw that out, to force it out, to bring it forward when you shouldn't, is extreme physical pain.
It makes them have to realize there's more than what they were told there is.
Some things we have to hold back for that reason.
We are never going to have a change until we start having these conversations with people.
I care about the next generation, and I think they need to know these things are going on, and they need to be able to talk about them when they experience them.
Yes, this is happening. You're not nuts, and it's happened to other people.
I think it's impossible for the truth to be buried forever.
Hello or goodbye. This has been the Exeter Oddity Showcase. This is our first episode, but hopefully there will be more. And you can help there being more by submitting your content. We need your comedy, we need your music performances, and maybe even your animation or poetry. You can send us those at extbg@exeternh.gov with the subject line "Submissions for Hillary." Thank you very much. Have a great night.